The sun rose slowly over the green fields of Arendor. Golden light touched every blade of grass, making the morning dew shine like tiny stars. Birds sang softly, and the gentle wind carried the scent of fresh soil. In the distance, a small village lay nestled between hills and forests. It was a quiet place where people lived simple lives. Most of them were farmers, tending to crops and animals far away from the chaos of the wider galaxy. Lyra walked along the narrow dirt path that led into the village. She was not like the villagers. She had traveled many light years through star systems, visiting planets and observing civilizations. She was part of the Interstellar Council, a group that watched over the galaxy, ensuring peace and protecting planets from threats. Her mission on Arendor was simple: check the village, gather information, and report anything unusual. The village looked peaceful, almost too peaceful. That always made Lyra suspicious. Sometimes danger hid behind calmness. She adjusted the strap of her pack and scanned the fields with her keen eyes. Everything seemed normal, but a feeling in her gut told her to stay alert. Most of the villagers were already busy. Men and women moved through the fields, planting, watering, or harvesting crops. Children ran barefoot, laughing and playing, while older villagers tended the animals. Smoke rose gently from chimneys, carrying the smell of fresh bread and cooking stew. Life seemed perfect. Then Lyra saw him. He was a man in his late 20s, tall, with broad shoulders and hands rough from work. He moved slowly, deliberately, as he guided a plow through the soil. There was something different about him. Most farmers she had seen were hurried, busy, always thinking about their work. But he moved calmly, like he had all the time in the world. His eyes were steady, alert, and sharp, scanning the horizon as if he expected something to happen. Lyra tilted her head. Just a farmer? She thought to herself. He looked ordinary, yet there was something in his presence that made her pause. She walked closer, keeping to the edge of the field, careful not to be noticed. He did not look at her. His hands moved skillfully, turning the plow with ease. The soil parted neatly, leaving perfect rows behind him. There was a rhythm to his movements, almost like a dance. Lyra had seen soldiers, pilots, and warriors. She had seen people fight, people survive impossible situations, and somehow she felt that this man, this farmer, had that same quality. A sudden sound broke her thoughts, a shrill cry from the edge of the village. Lyra's hand went to the hilt of her small energy blade. She ran toward the noise, moving silently through the grass. By the time she reached the source, she saw two villagers cornered by strange creatures. They were small, alien-like, with thin bodies and glowing red eyes. Their movements were quick, almost unnatural. The villagers had sticks and tools trying to defend themselves, but it was clear they were outmatched. Lyra prepared to strike. But then something happened that made her stop in surprise. The farmer she had been watching stepped forward calmly. He picked up a long farming tool, a simple metal staff used for tilling soil. In a few swift movements, he twisted, ducked, and swung the staff. The first alien stumbled backward, hitting a tree with a loud thud. The second one leaped forward, claws extended, but the farmer caught it with one hand and slammed it to the ground. Lyra's eyes widened. The farmer was fast, precise, and strong. He moved with skill she had never seen in someone who had never trained as a soldier. He didn't panic, didn't hesitate. Every movement was controlled, deliberate, deadly. The aliens hissed, realizing they had underestimated the man. With one final strike, he sent them running back into the forest, howling and shrieking in anger and fear. The villagers stared at him in awe, some cheering, some silent with shock. Lyra could not speak. She had expected some skill, maybe quick thinking, but nothing like this. The man turned to her, finally noticing her presence. His face was calm, almost bored, as if fighting aliens was just another part of his day. Lyra stepped forward. That was incredible, she said. You saved them. I'm just a farmer, he interrupted, his voice calm and steady. This is my job. I protect my home. Lyra studied him carefully. Just a farmer? I don't think so. No ordinary farmer moves like that. He smiled faintly, not arrogant, just quiet and confident. You watch a lot of strangers fight. Maybe you will understand one day. Lyra raised an eyebrow. There was something he was not telling her. She could feel it in the air, in his calm movements, in the way his eyes never wavered. Something in his past. Something hidden. Suddenly a loud roar echoed through the valley. Lyra froze. The sound was deep, mechanical, and terrifying. From behind the hills, a larger group of aliens appeared. They were bigger, armed with strange energy weapons, and their armor glowed with a faint blue light. The villagers panicked. Children screamed, and parents tried to gather them. The farmers grabbed whatever they could to defend themselves, but it was clear they were unprepared. Lyra stepped forward, ready to fight, but the farmer held up a hand. His calmness did not waver. He turned to the villagers and spoke in a strong voice. "Stay behind me. Do not run. Stay together." The aliens advanced, moving in perfect formation. Their eyes glowed, scanning for threats. Lyra noticed something unusual. Their movements were precise but not natural. They were soldiers, but not like any soldiers she had seen. Their coordination suggested a hive-like intelligence working together as one. The farmer, Kale, picked up another tool, this one a heavy metal hoe. He twirled it in his hands, testing its weight. His eyes narrowed as he studied the alien's approach. Then, with a calm breath, he charged forward. Lyra followed. Kale moved like a storm. He dodged laser blasts, swung the hoe with precision, and blocked attacks with his bare hands. Every strike was calculated, every move perfect. He used the terrain, ducking behind fences, leaping over carts, and turning simple farm tools into deadly weapons. Lyra joined the fight, using her training to cover villagers and attack the aliens. But it was clear that Kale was the center of attention. Even the aliens seemed to focus on him, recognizing him as a threat unlike any other. The battle lasted only a few minutes, but it felt like hours. Finally, the aliens retreated, disappearing into the forests with a loud, angry roar. The village was safe for now. The villagers gathered around Kale, cheering, hugging, and thanking him. Lyra stood back, watching in amazement. He was still calm, still steady, almost like nothing had happened. Lyra approached him once more. "You can't hide this. Who are you really?" Kale looked at the fields, then at the sky, then back at her. "I told you," he said quietly. "I am just a farmer. I protect my home." Lyra shook her head. She did not believe him. There was more to this man, more than he was letting on, and she had a feeling that his true story was far from over. The sun set over the village, casting long shadows across the fields. Birds returned to their nests, and the villagers began to calm down. Kale returned to his plow, working as if nothing had happened. But Lyra knew better. This quiet man, this simple farmer, had a secret, and soon, the galaxy would find out just how powerful that secret really was. That night, as the stars shone brightly over Arendor, Lyra stayed awake in the small inn at the edge of the village. She watched the horizon, thinking about the day's events. She knew one thing for certain. She had never met anyone like Kale, and whatever was coming next, it would change everything. The quiet village was not so quiet anymore. And the farmer, the man who seemed ordinary, was about to seize a destiny far greater than anyone could imagine. The morning sun rose slowly over the village of Arendor, spilling soft golden light across the fields. Birds sang and the wind whispered through the trees. But for the villagers, there was little rest. Many of them were still shaken from the alien attack the day before. Fear lingered in the air, making their steps slow and hesitant. Lyra walked along the paths between the homes, observing the villagers. They were doing their best to return to normal, but she could see the worry in their eyes. Children clung to their parents, and men moved nervously as they repaired broken fences and patched damaged roofs. Kyle, the quiet farmer who had saved them all, worked in the fields as if nothing had happened. He guided the plow slowly, his movements calm and steady, but Lyra noticed something subtle. The way he held himself, the careful scanning of the horizon, the way his hands gripped the tools, it was not ordinary. Even when he worked quietly, he seemed ready for anything. Lyra approached him cautiously. "Kale," she said softly, "the aliens will return. Their scout group yesterday was small. This morning I saw signs they are coming back, and this time they will bring more." Kale looked at her briefly, then returned his attention to the plow. "I know," he said simply. His voice was calm, but Lyra could hear the edge of determination in it. "We prepare. Nothing else matters," Lyra shook her head. "You're not just a farmer. I've seen the way you fight. You move with skill, with speed, with instinct. Even trained soldiers cannot match that. How is it possible?" Kale stopped plowing and leaned on the handle of his tool. He looked at her steadily. "Instinct," he said. "I learned to survive. That is all," Lyra frowned. "Instinct alone doesn't explain what I saw. You fought like a master. You saved lives. You were not just defending yourself, you were protecting others. That takes more than instinct. Kyle sighed, a quiet sound that carried a hint of memory. It is who I am, he said. I have lived a long life in this village, hiding from things I cannot change. I am a farmer now. That is my choice. Lyra studied him carefully. She wanted to believe his words, but something told her he was hiding much more. She decided not to push him too hard for now. There would be time later. The calm of the morning was broken by a sudden shout from the village edge. A group of children ran toward the center of the village, screaming. Lyra and Kale sprinted toward them. When they arrived, they saw that a small alien scout had returned, sneaking into the village alone. It moved quickly, aiming to capture livestock. Kale did not hesitate. He picked up a heavy farming tool from the ground, twirling it once in his hands as he assessed the alien. In one swift motion, he swung it, hitting the creature and knocking it back. The alien shrieked in anger, but Kale was already moving, anticipating its attack. Lyra followed, using her training to block the alien's sudden strikes. Together they cornered the creature, forcing it to retreat. It ran back into the forest, leaving the villagers staring in awe once again. One of the older villagers, a woman named Mara, approached Kyle. How do you do this? She asked, her voice trembling. You are just a farmer, yet you move like a warrior. We've never seen anything like it. Kale smiled faintly. I do what I must, he said simply. No one else is safe. If I can protect my home, then I will. Lyra nodded, still unsure how to explain what she had witnessed. She turned to Kale. We need a plan. The aliens are not finished. They will return with more. If we don't prepare, the village will not survive the next attack. Kale's eyes narrowed slightly. Then we prepare. Everyone must help. They must learn to defend themselves. You will teach them. Lyra raised an eyebrow. Teach them? They are farmers, not soldiers. Can they really fight? Kale glanced at the villagers working nervously in the fields. They can, he said quietly. They just need to believe they can. Humans are stronger than they know. Over the next few days, Lyra worked with the villagers, teaching them basic combat skills and strategies. She showed them how to use farming tools as weapons, how to build simple traps, and how to move quietly to avoid detection. At first, the villagers were hesitant. Many were afraid, unsure of their abilities. But Kale encouraged them. Do not be afraid, he said. You have hands, minds, and courage. That is all you need. Stand together and no one can defeat you. Slowly, the villagers began to gain confidence. They practiced blocking and striking, learning to move together as a unit. They laughed nervously at first, but the laughter became determination. Kale trained alongside them, showing moves that were simple yet effective, never rushing, always precise. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra sat beside Kale near the village well. She studied him carefully. You are hiding something, she said quietly. I can feel it. You are not just instinct, you are different. Kale looked at the water, his reflection calm. Different, he repeated. Perhaps, but it does not matter. I am here now. I am who I am. The past is gone. Lyra leaned closer. Tell me, I promise I will understand. You fought like no human I have ever seen. You must have a reason. There must be a story behind it. Kyle looked at her steadily, then finally spoke. Long ago, my ancestors were warriors. They defended planets, civilizations, and lives. They were trained, enhanced, and skilled. I inherited their strength, their instincts, and their courage. But I chose to live as a farmer, to hide from the galaxy, to live quietly. I never wanted to fight again. That is my story. Lyra was silent for a moment, letting his words sink in. Then you are more than a farmer. You are a living legend, she said finally. Kale shook his head. No legend wants to be remembered. I fight because I must. Nothing more. Just then a loud rumble shook the ground. The village froze. Lyra's eyes widened. The aliens, she whispered. They are here. From the forest, a larger alien squad appeared. They moved quickly, their eyes glowing with red light. This group was bigger and more organized than the last. Some carried strange weapons that hummed with energy. They had come for revenge. The villagers panicked, but Kale stepped forward. Stay together, he shouted. Do not run. Fight if you must, but do not scatter. Lyra moved beside him. Kale, we need a strategy. They are too many. Kale's eyes narrowed. Then we fight smart. Use what we have. The land, the tools, our minds. That is how we win. The aliens advanced, moving with calculated precision. Lyra noticed their movements were almost synchronized, as if controlled by a single mind. But Kale remained calm. He twirled a hoe in his hands, watching, waiting. Then he acted. With a sudden leap, he struck the first alien, sending it flying into a cart. Another alien lunged at him, but Kale caught it and threw it aside. He moved like a shadow, fast, precise, unstoppable. Lyra joined the battle, blocking attacks and helping villagers. But it was clear that Kale was the center of attention. Even the aliens seemed to recognize him as a threat. The villagers, inspired by Kale, began to fight back. They moved with newfound confidence, using traps and tools cleverly. For the first time, they were no longer just farmers. They were defenders. Kale's calm leadership and incredible skill turned the tide. The aliens, confused by the unexpected resistance, began to retreat. Some fled into the forest. Others scrambled to regroup. When the battle ended, the village was battered but still standing. Villagers gathered around Kale, cheering and hugging him. Lyra watched, amazed at the transformation. These ordinary humans had faced impossible odds and survived because of Kale's guidance. Kale looked at the villagers, his face calm as ever. "Remember this," he said quietly. "Courage is not born. It is chosen. Today you chose it." Lyra approached him once more. "You are extraordinary, Kale. The galaxy will hear of this one day. You cannot stay hidden forever." Kale shook his head. "I stay for now. This is my home. I protect it, and I will always be ready if danger comes again." "That is enough." The villagers cheered again, inspired by their hero. Lyra realized something important. Humanity's strength was not just in advanced technology or powerful weapons. It was in courage, intelligence, and the will to protect those they loved. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Kale returned to his plow. Lyra knew the quiet farmer had awakened something in the villagers, something powerful, something human. And she also knew that the next challenge would be even greater. The village of Arendor was quiet once again, but the calm was different this time. It was not the peaceful quiet of ordinary days. Instead, it carried a sense of alertness, a readiness that had not been there before. The villagers moved through, their routines with purpose, eyes scanning the horizon, hands always near tools that could serve as weapons. They had changed. They were no longer just farmers. They were defenders, inspired by the quiet hero who had saved them. Kyle. Lyra walked along the edge of the fields, observing Kyle. He worked with the plow as always, but something about his movements was different now. There was a focus, a tension in his muscles, as if he expected danger at any moment. She wondered what had shaped this man. "Kyle," she said, breaking the silence. "You told me about your ancestors, about warriors from long ago. I need to know more. If the aliens are coming back with a larger force, we need every advantage we can get. I need to understand what you are capable of." Kyle paused, leaning on the handle of his plow. He looked toward the distant hills, as if seeing something far away. "You want to know about my past?" he asked quietly. "It is not an easy story, and it is not a story I share lightly." Lyra stepped closer. "I understand. But if the village is to survive, we must be prepared. You cannot hide your strength forever. The aliens will not stop until they have taken everything." Kale nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "But remember, this is not just my story. It is the story of humanity and the choices we make to survive." He began to speak. Long ago, before Arendor had been settled as a farming world, humans had been explorers and warriors. They traveled through the stars, defending planets and civilizations from threats both alien and internal. Among these humans were a special line of warriors, known for their incredible strength, sharp instincts, and natural skill in combat. These warriors had been trained from birth, honed to perfection, and sometimes enhanced in secret ways to survive extreme battles. Kyle was one of their descendants. The legacy of those warriors flowed in his veins, giving him instincts and skills that could not be learned in any training academy. But Kale had chosen a different life. He had chosen peace, hiding from the wider galaxy and the responsibilities that his lineage brought. For years he had lived quietly, tending to the land and keeping to himself. Yet no matter how far he ran from the past, it always had a way of catching up. Lyra listened in awe. The pieces fell into place. The incredible skill she had witnessed, the calm bravery under fire, the ability to anticipate danger, all of it came from Cale's hidden heritage. He was not just a fighter. He was a living echo of humanity's greatest warriors, a seed of strength that had survived centuries. But why stay hidden? Lyra asked. With skills like yours, you could protect many worlds, many people. Kyle's eyes darkened slightly. I have seen what humans can become when power is misused, he said quietly. I have seen battles that destroyed entire civilizations. I chose a simple life because I did not want that path. I wanted to protect one small place, one small community. That is enough for me. Lyra understood, but she could not help but feel that the galaxy needed him. Kyle, these aliens will return. If they attack again, they will not just come for the village, they will come for the planet. Your skills, your legacy, can save more than this one place. Kyle sighed. Perhaps, he said. But first, we protect what is in front of us. The village must survive. The people must learn to defend themselves. That is the first step. Over the next few days, Kale began working more closely with the villagers. He did not just teach them combat skills, he taught them strategy, observation, and the art of patience. He showed them how to watch the terrain, how to use natural cover, and how to anticipate an enemy's movements. He helped them build hidden traps in the forests, dig small trenches around the fields, and even camouflage simple weapons. At first, the villagers struggled. Many were nervous, unsure of themselves. But Kale's presence was calm and steady. He encouraged them, corrected mistakes gently, and celebrated small victories. Slowly, they began to gain confidence. Farmers who had never held a weapon now moved with precision. Children practiced blocking and striking with wooden sticks, laughing as they learned. Adults learned to coordinate their movements, moving as a team rather than individuals. Lyra watched the transformation with amazement. Kale's legacy was not just his own skill. It was the ability to inspire others, to awaken courage and strength in those who had thought themselves weak. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills and the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Kyle and Lyra walked along the edge of the village. They could see scouts in the distance, small alien figures moving through the forests. The larger threat was coming, and it would not wait long. Kyle, Lyra said, her voice serious, how much of your legacy are you willing to share? The village is learning, yes, but when the main force arrives, we will need your full skill. Can you stay hidden then, or will you step forward? Kale looked out at the fields, the crops swaying gently in the wind. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I cannot hide forever, he said. If the village, the people I protect, are in danger, I will step forward. I will do what is necessary. But I fight for them, not for glory or recognition. That is my way. Lyra nodded, understanding the depth of his commitment. Then we will be ready. Together. The next day, Kyle organized the villagers into small squads. Each squad had a leader, chosen for bravery and quick thinking rather than strength. He trained them in basic tactics, how to ambush enemies, how to retreat safely, and how to protect one another. He drilled them until their movements became natural, almost instinctive. The village was transforming into a small but effective defensive force, and Kale was the quiet center of it all. At night, the village gathered around small fires, discussing what they had learned. Parents encouraged their children, sharing tips and lessons. The laughter of children was mixed with stories of courage and determination. Kyle watched from the shadows, satisfied that the seeds of heroism were taking root. Lyra approached him once more, her face lit by the firelight. The aliens will not wait forever, she said. They will attack soon. Are you ready to reveal more of your abilities when that happens? Kyle looked at her, his eyes calm but intense. I am ready, he said simply. But only to protect. That is all that matters. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed from the horizon. The villagers froze, fear gripping them again. Lyra tensed, scanning the hills. Kale stepped forward, calm as ever. He twirled a long staff in his hands, assessing the distance, the movement, and the threat. "They are coming," he said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "Prepare yourselves. Stand together. Trust in your strength." The villagers gathered around, gripping their tools and weapons. Lyra could see determination in their eyes, the same determination she had seen in Kale's movements. They were ready to fight, inspired by the quiet hero among them. Kale took a deep breath and looked at the approaching shadows in the distance. He could feel the familiar rush of instinct, the echo of his ancestors' strength. This was the moment he had been preparing for, the moment where his hidden legacy would be needed to its fullest. The forest edge trembled as the alien scouts advanced, their glowing eyes fixed on the village. Kale's hand tightened around his staff. He was no longer just a farmer. He was the defender, the warrior, the living legacy of humanity's greatest heroes. The village of Arendor lay quiet under the early morning sun, but the calm was deceptive. The distant hills were alive with movement. Shadows stretched across the fields, and the wind carried a low hum that made Lyra's skin prickle. The aliens were coming, this time with full force. Their scouts had returned overnight, signaling the arrival of a fleet larger than anyone had anticipated. Kyle stood in the center of the village, calm as ever. Around him, villagers gathered, clutching tools they had learned to wield like weapons. Wooden staffs, hoes, pitchforks, and even cooking utensils had been transformed into instruments of defense under Kale's guidance. Their faces were tense but determined. They trusted him because he had earned it, not by words but by action. Lyra moved beside Kale, scanning the horizon. "They're closer than we thought," she said. "If they break through, this village could be destroyed in minutes." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then we make sure they don't," he replied. His voice was calm, steady, carrying the weight of authority that inspired confidence. "Stand your ground. Protect your homes. Do not panic. Trust each other, and we will survive." From the edge of the forest, the alien fleet emerged. Dozens of hulking figures moved with terrifying precision. Their armor glimmered in the sunlight, and strange energy weapons hummed with power. Lyra counted their numbers and felt a chill. Even with the villagers' training, this was overwhelming. Kale did not flinch. Instead, he walked toward the village hall, where a small wooden chest sat, untouched for generations. He opened it carefully and pulled out a blade, long and simple in design, but with a faint shimmer that suggested it was far from ordinary. It was the ancient ceremonial blade of Arendor, passed down for centuries and thought to be symbolic. Lyra's eyes widened. What is that?" she asked. Kale held it up, letting the sunlight reflect off its polished edge. "This was always meant for a protector," he said quietly. "And now, it is time." The moment Kyle grasped the blade, a strange energy seemed to flow through him. His movements sharpened, his posture straightened, and his instincts heightened. The blade felt alive in his hands, responding to his thoughts and amplifying his abilities. It was as if it had been waiting for him all this time. The villagers watched in awe as Kale moved toward the incoming fleet. He twirled the blade effortlessly, testing its weight, and then planted his feet firmly in the ground. "For your homes, for your families," he shouted. "Stand with me!" Lyra drew her own weapon and joined him, positioning herself strategically to cover the villagers. She had seen Kale fight before, but now with the blade in his hands, he was something else entirely. His presence radiated authority and power, inspiring the villagers to stand taller, hold their weapons more firmly, and prepare for the battle. The aliens charged, their weapons raised. They had expected easy prey, ordinary villagers, but they were about to learn their mistake. Kale moved with astonishing speed, dodging energy blasts and striking with precision. The blade hummed in his hands, cutting through alien armor with ease. Each swing was calculated yet fluid, almost like water flowing around obstacles. Lyra fought alongside him, coordinating villagers to flank and ambush the aliens. Kale called out orders, directing the defense with calm efficiency. The villagers executed his strategies with growing confidence, trapping some aliens in pits and using makeshift barricades to block others. Even the alien commanders seemed taken aback. They had never encountered humans fighting with such coordination and determination. Every strike Kale made, every move he executed sent a clear message. Underestimating humans was a fatal mistake. Kale leapt onto a small hill in the village center, the blade glowing faintly as he swung it. A group of aliens charged at him, and with a series of swift strikes he disarmed and incapacitated them. Lyra moved to protect the flanks, guiding villagers to reinforce weak points. The battle raged across the village. Smoke rose from overturned carts, fences splintered under impact, and dust clouds swirled around the combatants. But the villagers fought with growing confidence, inspired by Kale's leadership. Even those who had trembled with fear days before now moved with purpose and skill. Kale spotted a large alien commander moving through the battlefield, directing troops and targeting key defenders. He knew this was the moment to strike decisively. With a deep breath he charged, the blade cutting a path through enemies with unmatched precision. Every swing, every parry seemed to anticipate the aliens' moves before they happened. The commander turned to face him, raising a heavy weapon. They clashed, energy and metal colliding with a deafening roar. The villagers paused for a moment, watching the duel between the hidden farmer-turned-warrior and the alien leader. Kale's movements were almost too fast to follow, each strike deliberate, each block perfect. Finally, with a swift maneuver, Kale disarmed the commander and sent him sprawling. The remaining aliens hesitated, unsure how to proceed without their leader. Kale raised the blade high, a clear signal to the villagers. "Push forward," he shouted. The villagers surged, taking advantage of the confusion. They attacked with coordinated precision, driving the aliens back toward the forests. Kyle moved among them, cutting through the last pockets of resistance, protecting the weakest and directing others to follow the plan. By the time the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the battlefield was clear. The alien fleet had retreated, leaving behind only scattered equipment and a few injured soldiers. The village was battered but standing, its people victorious. Lyra approached Kale, her eyes wide with admiration. You were incredible," she said. "The way you fought, the way you led, I've never seen anything like it." Kyle looked around at the villagers. Some were tending to the wounded. Others were checking barricades and salvaging tools. He let out a quiet sigh. "They fought well," he said. "They learned quickly. This victory is theirs as much as mine." The villagers gathered around him, cheering, lifting tools and fists in the air. They called him a hero, but Kale remained humble, simply nodding and encouraging them. "Remember this," he said. "Courage is not born, it is chosen. You chose it today, and that is what made the difference." Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "The galaxy will hear of this. They will not forget that humans, even farmers, can stand against impossible odds." Kyle shook his head gently. "Let them watch," he said. "We do not fight for recognition. We fight to protect what is ours." As night fell over Arendor, the villagers lit fires and celebrated quietly. There was relief, yes, but also a sense of pride. They had faced a powerful enemy and survived because they had trusted themselves, and because they had followed the quiet farmer who had seized the blade and revealed the strength within him. Lyra stayed awake that night, watching the stars. She knew this was only the beginning. The alien fleet that had attacked the village would not give up so easily. They would return, stronger and more prepared. But she also knew that as long as Kyle and the villagers stood together, humanity's courage and ingenuity could face any threat. Kyle returned to his home, laying the blade carefully in its resting place. He looked out over the fields, calm once more. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Still, for now, the village was safe, and that was enough. In the quiet of the night, the legend of the farmer who seized the blade began to grow. Not in words, not in stories, but in the hearts of those who had fought beside him. Courage, determination, and the willingness to protect what they loved had turned ordinary humans into heroes. And Kale, the man who had once hidden his strength, had shown them the true meaning of power. The galaxy had taken notice. And when the aliens returned, they would remember the name of the quiet farmer, who could not be underestimated. The night was deep and still over Arendor, but the air was thick with tension. The village had recovered from the earlier battle, yet everyone knew that the alien threat had not vanished. The main fleet, larger and more organized than ever, was on its way. Its commanders had likely received reports of the village's resistance, and they would not return lightly. Kale stood at the edge of the fields, the ancient blade in his hands. Its faint shimmer reflected the moonlight, He had spent hours training, the villagers teaching them how to defend themselves, and ensuring every possible trap and barricade was in place. Even so, he felt the weight of responsibility. The villagers trusted him with their lives, and he could not fail them. Lyra approached silently, her boots crunching on the dirt path. "They'll be here soon," she said. "The fleet is faster than we thought. We might not have much time before they reach the village." Kyle nodded. "Then we meet them here," he said quietly. "We fight on our land, where we know every hill, every tree, every path. That is our advantage." The villagers gathered behind him, weapons ready, eyes bright with determination. Parents held their children close. Older men and women steadied their hands on staffs and farming tools. Even those who had once trembled with fear now stood tall. They had seen Kale's strength, his courage, and the power of the blade, and it had awakened something within them. From the forest's edge, the alien fleet emerged. Dozens of hulking figures, their energy weapons humming, advanced in formation. Their commander, taller and more heavily armored than the rest, moved to the front, his glowing eyes scanning the village for threats. Kale stepped forward, raising the blade high. "This is your home," he shouted to the villagers. "Fight for it. Fight for each other." The aliens charged. Lyra moved alongside the villagers, directing them to flank the attackers and use traps effectively. But the main focus was Kale. With the blade in his hands, he became a whirlwind of movement. His strikes were precise, his agility unmatched, and his instincts seemed to anticipate every attack before it happened. The alien commander spotted Kale and moved forward, aiming to eliminate the human leader first. Kyle noticed the movement immediately. With a leap, he met the commander, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. The villagers watched in awe as the two titans battled. Kyle's style was unlike anything the aliens had seen. He used the terrain, his speed, and the blade's strange resonance to outmaneuver the commander. Each strike was both defensive and offensive, creating openings and closing them instantly. The alien commander's strikes were powerful, but Kale's instincts, honed from his hidden legacy, allowed him to dodge and counter with deadly accuracy. Meanwhile, the villagers fought with renewed courage. Inspired by Kale, they used their makeshift weapons and traps effectively. A trap hidden beneath a thin layer of soil sent a group of aliens tumbling into a pit. Others were caught in netted snares, allowing villagers to disarm them quickly. Even the children helped, running messages and distracting smaller enemies. The village had become a united force, each person playing a vital role. Lyra moved among them, guiding and defending as needed, her training complementing Kale's leadership. She noticed something remarkable. The humans were not just fighting, they were thinking, adapting, and learning on the spot. Kyle had unlocked a spark in them that no alien technology could anticipate. The battle raged for what felt like hours. The alien commander continued to press Kale, trying to find a weakness, but Kale's combination of skill, instinct, and the blade's resonance kept him ahead. Finally, Kale saw his opportunity. With a sudden, swift strike, he disarmed the commander, sending the alien's weapon flying. The commander roared in frustration and lunged again, but Kale anticipated it. With a precise movement, he swept the commander off balance, sending him crashing to the ground. Lyra and the villagers quickly surrounded the remaining aliens, forcing them to retreat. Silence fell over the battlefield. The aliens, shocked by the humans' skill and the unexpected defeat of their leader, fled into the forests, leaving their equipment behind. The villagers stood in awe, looking at Kyle, the man who had once been just a farmer, now a hero who had saved them all. Kyle lowered the blade, breathing steadily. He looked around at the villagers, their faces lit with relief, pride, and wonder. "We did it," he said quietly. "Because you stood together. Because you believed. That is the true strength of humanity." Lyra approached him, her eyes shining. "You are incredible, Kale. Not just because of your skills, but because of what you've done for them. You've shown them who they can be." Kale shook his head. "I only showed them what was already inside them. Courage, determination, the will to protect what we love. That is what makes us strong. Not me, not the blade. We all did this together." The villagers gathered around, cheering and hugging one another. They lifted Kale onto their shoulders, celebrating the hero who had led them to victory. But Kale remained humble, simply nodding and encouraging them. As night fell, the village was calm once again. Fires burned softly, casting warm light over the fields. Children slept safely in their beds, while adults kept watch quietly, knowing the threat had been temporarily pushed back. Lyra stayed awake for a while, documenting the events. She knew this story would spread throughout the galaxy. Humans, even those living simple lives as farmers, had proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome even the most advanced alien threats. Kale returned the blade to its resting place, placing it carefully in the village hall. He looked out over the fields, calm and thoughtful. The battle had been won, but he knew that vigilance would always be necessary. The galaxy was vast, and danger could return at any time. Still, for now, the village was safe, and Kale, the quiet farmer who had seized the blade, had shown the galaxy that humanity's true strength was not in technology alone, but in courage, unity, and the indomitable spirit of its people. Lyra approached him one last time that night. "The galaxy will remember this," she said softly, "and when it does, they will know not to underestimate humans ever again." Kyle nodded. "Let them watch," he said. "We do not fight for recognition. We fight because it is right. That is enough." The stars shone brightly over Arendor, reflecting on the calm fields below. The villagers slept peacefully, finally free from fear, and the legend of Kale, the farmer who seized the blade, began to grow, not in stories or songs, but in the hearts of those who had witnessed it. And somewhere, beyond the forests and hills, the alien fleet prepared to return, unaware that they had underestimated the power of humanity. Kale stood in the quiet night, the blade resting at his side, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. He was no longer just a farmer. He was a protector, a hero, and a living testament to the strength of humans. The galaxy had learned an important truth that night. Do not underestimate humans, for even the quietest among them could rise and wield incredible power when their home and loved ones were at stake. Arendor slept under the stars, safe for now. But humanity's spirit, awakened and unbroken, would shine far beyond this small village, a light that no darkness could ever extinguish.